So today I'm going to talk about the Philadelphia Union and specifically talk about how insane these last 10 games has been for the Philadelphia Union doing this run where they went from a team that were still trying to figure out whether they could finish to become the top team in the Eastern Conference to now pretty much almost in a way where, I wouldn't say they're running away with it because Montreal is still within touching distance in terms of trying to get that first spot, but the amount of goals that they've been scoring and also the amount of goals that they have conceded during this 10 game run is something I've never seen before. I mean, even some of the best team in the league, even some teams like LAFC back in 2019 and even the TFC team back in 2017 have never gone through this kind of stretch where they just simply play games like they're playing beginner mode on FIFA 22. And it all kind of started on July 8th when they put a 7 spot on DC United. And this was still back at a point where, coming into this 10 game stretch, a lot of people were questioning about this Union attack. I mean, we know that this defense is definitely one of the best in the league, but it's the attack that was kind of what's holding this team back. And especially, they don't really have a lot of decent goals scored on this team. Well, it turns out that was about to change because the likes of Julian Carranza, Michael Arud, and especially Daniel Gastak really started to be the offense of this team, and you're going to see them a lot on the board when I talk about the amount of goals that they've scored in each of these games. And again, it's all started with a 7-0 beatdown of DC United, where Alejandro Bedoya gets the goal scored in the 9th minute and then score another one in the 37th minute. And then Carranza, of course, getting his hat trick in that one in the 22nd, 25th, and 72nd minute because Julian Carranza is now literally the new owner of DC United with how he has been doing this season. And then also Michael Oru scoring in the 2nd minute of stoppage time in the first half and in the 59th minute to make it a 7-0 victory. Now, in the next game against Inter Miami, it was a lot closer, though they still were able to win on the road where they won 2-1 in this game. It was kind of a very rope kind of performance for the Union and very Jim Curtin like where they played okay in that one. It wasn't as spectacular as we saw in the previous game, but that's what you need to do when you're on the road. They got those 2 goals early in. Well, they got an early goal from Daniel Gastat from the spot, and then Corey Burke made it 2-0 in favor of the Union. Corey Burke has started to really fill into the El Senio role. And I don't think you, of course, noticed, but he has been able to get on the score sheet, especially late in the game, and especially in games that are kind of like blown out kind of resort. And then Gonzalo Higuain did make it interesting in that one, but the Union was able to still win 2-1 in that one. Now, in the very next game, they also won 2-1 against New England, though this one was a little bit more difficult. And this was kind of a game that was reminiscent of when the Union was really struggling in terms of goal scoring, and that they win like a lot of these 1-0 and 1-1 draw kind of game. And it looked like they were in trouble early when Gustavo Bo puts it in to make it 1-0 in favor of the Revs. And that, again, the Union did not play very well throughout that game, but they somehow found a way to get the win, first from Michael Root in the 75th minute that really changed the game, and then Daniel Gastak not long after getting a goal from the penalty spot, and they get a 2-1 win in that one. Now the very next game, they also didn't really quite do well in terms of the goal scorer department, and it was also a little bit of a dull game, but that's what the Union do sometimes when they're on the road. It's a very Jim Curtin kind of formula on the road, and Daniel Gastak, of course, scoring the only goal in that game to get a 1-0 win in favor of Orlando City. And also, this, another thing that I've also said so many times about the Union is that this team seems like it's feast or famine in terms of the goal scoring. And lately, it has definitely been feast, but you also can look at in terms of the amount of goals that they score. And I know everybody have talked about the insane amount of goals that they scored. I will say that they haven't really done that like almost every single time, and there's times where they do struggle going forward on the attack. And again, these last 3 games I mentioned are a good example where their offense was kind of going through a little bit of a famine phase. But as I said, it's feast or famine, and when they feast, they definitely feast, because the very next game they would put up a 6 spot against the Houston Dynamo. Daniel Gastak gets the scoring started, followed by Jack McGlynn with a wonderful free kick to score his first ever career goal in MLS. Then you got Michael Root in the first minute of stoppage time, and also coming out of the half, Carranza also gets on the score sheet, and Quinn Sullivan also gets on the score sheet in the 89th minute as the Union was able to win 6-0 against the Houston Dynamo. Though the very next game, they definitely had a letdown because against FC Cincinnati, I think out of all these games that out of this stretch, I think this one was probably the worst one that the Union played because they got absolutely dominated by Cincinnati in this game. And I mentioned this was arguably the best game that Cincinnati has ever played, not just this season, but really in their franchise history. Brendan Vasquez getting the score sheet, getting the goal scoring start for Cincy in the 50th minute, and then Brenner followed that in the 55th, and then Barrial made it 3-0 in the 71st. Paxton Harrison did try to make this a little bit interesting in the 77th minute, but overall, that was one of the rare times that the Union just single-handedly getting out tactics and just kind of blown off the table by FC Cincinnati, which I think it's also fitting because you know that head coach for FC Cincinnati, Pat Nolan, and how he used to be part of the Philadelphia Union coaching staff. I wonder if maybe that has a lot to do of why the Union was just playing out of part, because I think that Nolan knew exactly what Jim Curtin was going to do, and he did a good job in terms of countering that. I mean, we've seen this also before so many times when the student meets the master, and sometimes the student gets the better of the master because they know exactly what their master decided to do, and they decide to learn from that and try to counter with their own move. And next thing you know, the students always get the best out of the master, and that's what we saw in that match. Now, in the very next game, they went back in terms of the winning ways and went back kind of blowing teams out by winning 4-1 against the Chicago Fire. Though, for a bit, this game was kind of close. Daniel Gastek did get the goal score in the 16th minute before Jack Elliott also scored in the 37th. But Chris Mueller did try to make this interesting in the 49th minute. Then it wasn't, because Julian Carranza would score in the 53rd minute, and then there's Corey Burke again scoring late in the game. He has that habit of coming off the bench and making an impact even if it's garbage time, as he scored in the 82nd minute to make it 4-1 in favor of the Union. Now, the very next game, they did went back to the losing end as they lost 1-0 against FC Dallas as Jesus Ferreira scored in the 34th minute. But keep in mind, I think this maybe has a lot to do with fatigue because, anytime we have to travel midweek for a game, especially travel midweek to play against Dallas in that hot Texas sun, it might have definitely took some tear and wear in this Philly side. Though I will say that in that game, I didn't think that they played badly in that game. I think that was just one of also those games where their finishing wasn't very well, and it feels like the attack was pretty much in famine mode with them not able to get on the score sheet. I mean, it's quite crazy to think that during this 10-game stretch, they actually had one game where they actually didn't score a goal because of how many goals that they scored. But like I said, once they went into a famine mode, it doesn't take long before they go back to feast mode. And they definitely gone back to feast mode in the next game as they once again put up a six spot in this time, once again blowing out DC United on the road, with Michael Root getting the goal scoring going the 37th minute, and then Gastek scores on the penalty in the 4th minute of stoppage time. And this is also when, as I said, Julian Carranza, he loves scoring against DC United. He loves it so much that he scored another hat-trick, this time scoring in the 47th, 70th, and 79th minute. And then, of course, Corey Burke scoring also. So, actually, Corey Burke didn't score. Actually, what I meant was the 74th minute for Carranza, and then Burke, of course, scoring in the 79th. My handwriting was not good there. I thought that was a 79 when that should have been a 74th minute goal. But yeah, it was a 6-0 beatdown that the Union had against DC, and this is where we get to last week match where I talk about how it is absolutely insane that they did it again. This time, they did it to the Colorado Rapids where they won 6-0. And this time it's Daniel Gastek, the one that was the hat-trick hero. He started scoring in the 9th minute before following that with another one from the spot in the 20th minute. And then he, of course, completed the hat-trick in the 83rd minute. Carranza also had a penalty kick go in the 30th minute. And then Burke, of course, scored in the 87th. And Matt Real even gets on the score sheet to complete the route for the Philadelphia Union. So in total, in terms of these 10 games that the Union has had where they have gone on this crazy streak where they won 8 out of 10 and their record is 8-2-0. They have scored 35 goals. and only conceded 6. And they have scored so many goals that they're actually now, I think, tied with Austin FC for the top goal scoring team in MLS this season. And again, not long before, long ago, we were talking about how this team, the problem in terms of goal scoring that is with this team, and that that was maybe going to hold them back in terms of being a championship caliber team. Well, it's safe to say that at least during this 10-game stretch, maybe that question is put aside. Though I will say that, like I said, with the whole talk about the feast and famine mode, there's been time where they have been kind of a little inconsistent in terms of maybe following up a big victory with another one there. But I think maybe that just being too harshly to say, because anytime when you score that many goals in a game, it's always tough to follow up in the next game and able to score the same amount of goal. But if there's one thing that I will say about this Union team, is that you got to say that this has got to be an MLS Cup contender and one of the favorites this season, because if they can find their goal scoring going, and we know their backline is one of the best in the league, but if they can find their goal scoring going, I don't know how you can stop this team. Like, some of the best team in MLS has always tends to have teams that have very good defense and also have some proven goal scorer. And as I mentioned, we know that there are proven goal scorer in this game in Julian Carranza, Daniel Gastek, and Michael Root up front. If those guys can continue the form that they've been in, which is just incredible during this 10-game stretch, this team can definitely run the table. But like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep this up, and especially I think once they do face against some tougher opponent. I mean, when you look at the Eastern Conference right now, the only team I can realistically say that maybe can stop them is Montreal. But then there is that question with Montreal of how their defense can be a little bit lackluster there at times. So, and with this Union team, if they can get going on the attack, they could definitely beat Montreal. So out of that, I really don't know if there's any team in the Eastern Conference right now that can really match the quality that the Philadelphia Union has had, and that I really think this could be the year where they finish the job that they missed doing last season, which is they came oh so close last year in the Eastern Conference of reaching MLS Cup. And once they do get to that promised land, there's that question of can they of course beat a Western Conference team? Like, if we look at the Union and we compare them to all these Western Conference teams, not all of them I think can really go toe to toe with this team. Like, maybe Austin, I would say that can be toe to toe when Austin is at its best, and then of course LAFC, we know what they can do, and that the media continue to say that they are considered the favorites overall in terms of winning MLS Cup. But right now, with the form that the Union has, and if they can continue to do this, yeah, I think this team can definitely reach MLS Cup. And if I was going to maybe revise my prediction, well, actually I didn't even need to revise my prediction. Didn't I say I predicted that the Philadelphia Union was going to finish first in the Eastern Conference? Yeah, if I said that, then yeah, that just shows me that maybe my prediction is not always bad. I mean, just don't look at my Western Conference prediction and look at maybe the Eastern Conference prediction and some of the ones in the top standings, and that you see that I think I predicted the Union to win the conference, and they are definitely well on their way to do so, if they can of course hold off Montreal, who also has been having an incredible season too. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video, and what do you think of this run that the Philadelphia Union has? Can they continue this throughout the remaining of the season, and when playoffs begin, if this is going to be the same team that we've seen in the past couple of games, can anybody able to stop them of reaching the promised land and winning their first ever MLS Cup? But let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.